Hey there, Phoenix fans, what's up? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to some more Planet Zoo, where we are building here in our brand new franchise zoo. The only zoo I have left, because I lost the other zoo. So I'm probably going to have to start over on that one, and I may do that eventually. But I got a couple things today for you that we're going to be building. I thought about maybe splitting this episode up into two different parts. One being what I'm doing now, which is the plaza, a little bit of the plaza anyway, and our facilities building, and then a second episode which was going to be the habitat. But really, I didn't think that the first part of this episode was enough to really I don't know, draw in viewers. I guess it's not a whole lot of exciting work what I'm doing right here in the beginning. So one of the first things you can see me do is I actually deleted all of the path system that I made in the original video, in the first video, and the reason I did that is because I didn't want the guests to be walking in places where they didn't need to be walking. I'll fix this in a little bit, and I'll explain more about that in just a second. But literally what I did was just delete the entire path system, and then I put in like 3 different paths in between the different the sections of the entrance there that we're gonna have. The next thing I did here is I've got these 3 trees, which are going to be kind of the focal point for when you enter. And I thought about doing like a big circular kind of raised plaza right up in like as soon as you enter there, like past the trees. What I was going to do is, as you can see here, I'm building these path systems that kind of go uphill a little bit, and I really appreciate one of the last things that was in the one of the last updates to the game, right before the DLC came out, or I guess the same day as the DLC, which is where they added a system in the game under the path options where you can actually set the staircases, like you can have them be just a couple of feet, or like the full like 4 feet or 4 meters or whatever. And that's really neat that you can do that, because personally in Planet Coaster, even what you had to do was you had to take a shop and then raise the shop and make the path connect and delete the shop to kind of get the sizes of the staircases you want. And it was a huge pain in the ass. This makes things a whole lot easier, and I'm pretty happy with how it came out. I did have to, it was a lot of work to try to get the curved path that I wanted right there, right before the steps, and then to try to figure out the angles for the steps and stuff that I wanted. But all in all, I think it worked out really, really well. We were even able to get like this really cool kind of like garden area in between, which was actually, I found that by accident. I was originally going to put like these concrete pieces, kind of like what I'm doing on the sides of the stairs here, in there, and do just kind of a big circular kind of thing. And then I just kind of stumbled upon these things, and I really like how they look. It's like this, like the corrugated metal looking kind of stuff. I don't know. I like it. In order to give it kind of that stepped up look, what we're going to do is put these mulch covers in there. And I think this works out really, really well. Now, I started to use the square pieces, but then I realized if I use the circular pieces, and I don't know if it's just me or what, but I think I like using the circular pieces better for mulch, because they seem to layer better, if that makes sense. Like using the square ones, you can tell where the edges are, but if I use the circular ones, it's a little harder to tell where the edges are. So we're gonna just copy basically the sides, the concrete sides of each of those over to the middles and stuff here, and on each side of the staircase. And that would pretty much be the end of our staircase sequence here. And then we're going to move on into the facilities building. Now, this is franchise mode, which means I'm limited for the amount of money and things that I have to spend. So I have to be very, very careful on what I'm doing in this build, because at the beginning of this episode, I had something around $22,000. So yeah, I had to be extremely careful about what money I spend to build what. So I didn't want to go like big and huge like I did the entrance and everything for our facilities building. But I guess I kind of forgot about something else I was doing here. So remember in the beginning I said I had to remove all the paths, and I had a better option for doing this. It's because I'm actually going to take and just cover like all of the path system here with these concrete tiles. They're actually roofs, but they work really good for just like coverage. They make a good flooring. And that way I can have the guests, I can funnel the guests where I need to funnel them instead of having them just walk all over the path systems and everything and having to worry about, well, this isn't lining up here, this isn't lining up there. It just makes it a whole lot easier to make the guests go where I want them to go. And you won't actually be able to see the paths because it's all going to be covered. So I like this method. It works pretty good. I don't know if I'm going to be using this throughout the entire park or not. I may. But I'm just kind of see how things kind of work out here in the beginning. I also want to do some kind of like design on the front of the plaza here as well. Like I know there's a lot of cool designs out there. People are using like I think it's these little light fixtures or whatever, like switches, to make these really cool mosaics. There's some snake ones, and I've even seen a panda one on the workshop as well, and those are really, really cool. So I would like to maybe do art shapes, or maybe that switch kind of thing, and do some kind of like patterns or something there in the middle. But I'll figure it out. We're also going to garden this up a little bit here. That's right, garden it up. That's my new phrase. We're going to add a little bit of foliage here, just kind of make this stand out a little bit. One of the things I've noticed about Planet Zoo is there's a ton of different kinds of flowers and stuff, but I've noticed almost all the flowers are purple. And that's fine with me. I'm a huge fan of purple, but a lot of them are just pink and purplish kind of colors, and it's really hard to kind of blend in different ones. You know, like there's a few yellow ones and stuff, but it would be nice if we could just like recolor the bushes and the flowers and stuff. But asking for recolorable things in Planet Zoo is just like asking for too much. So now we're going to move on to the facilities building here. I know I said we were going to do that a second ago, but I forgot about the pathing system and the coverage thing I was doing there. But anywho, what I'm doing here is, like I said, it's just got to be a very, very basic building for our facilities. I will probably come back at a later time once the park or the zoo starts making a lot more money. We'll probably come back and maybe redo this a little bit and maybe make it better. But I just wanted to do it kind of very, very basic. So I'm just building this entire building out of roofs and plaster, and we're going to just kind of decorate it up a little bit, and that's going to be it. Now it does include just about every single kind of piece that I want to do there. What I'm doing right now on the screen is that's where the bathrooms are going to be, but in franchise mode you don't need bathrooms at the start. It's a waste of money, so I'm not actually going to put bathrooms over there just yet. That's something I'll probably do at a later date, and like maybe in the next video you'll see where the bathrooms are going to go. Like that part of the building will probably be done already before we get into the next one. But I'm just going to basically throw out the buildings and stuff, the facilities that I need, and then just kind of figure out where their placement is going to go. Now, one of the things I wanted to do here was I wanted to have some of the windows actually facing out, because I like the idea that you can actually see inside the facility buildings, such as the keeper's hut and things like that. Speaking of the keeper's hut, you'll notice I forgot to grab a keeper's hut here, so I ended up later on, it's not in this video because I had to do it off video, but I ended up having to get a keeper's hut to put it in there. So that was a whole lot of fun trying to figure that out. But as I was saying, I really like the idea of the windows and stuff in there where you can see inside the facility buildings. So I wanted those to kind of be facing outward. I kind of chose a couple of different ones there that I wanted to be looking into. We don't have a vet center or quarantine center yet. Those will probably be added on later. And I'm also probably going to do an entire backstage area as well for this. And I know this is franchise, not sandbox. So doing a lot of this stuff requires money, which we can't really waste right now at the moment for doing these things like this. Like, if I had the money to spend and waste on doing an entire backstage area, I would have went ahead and done it. Just this entire episode would just be the facilities and backstage area, and then the habitat that we're going to do is going to be the next episode. But again, lack of funds and being able to need these funds for other things, yeah, it's probably not something I can do right now. But eventually, once this zoo starts making some cash, we're probably going to go back and redo a lot of these things that I'm doing now. But I am still trying to be as detailed as I can. Like, even though this building is extremely basic, I still wanted to be kind of detailed with it. Another thing that I wasn't happy with is I didn't have access to a couple of the building pieces that I needed for this episode. Like, I really wanted to kind of give it the bottom of the building. I wanted to have kind of this rock kind of base, like a foundation, almost maybe a quarter of the way up the building, like right underneath where the windows are, and then have the top part of it just be plaster. But I don't have access to those block pieces, so I'm going to have to unlock them. I think they might be in the modern set at some point. So once we get everything working, we're going to have to start doing some research and kind of getting all the things unlocked that we're going to be needing to build this zoo out. This was also one of my first time I've ever used these gutters as well. So I was toying around with the gutters, trying to figure out the best way to put them on there. And I think I got it. I wasn't thinking about it when I was messing around with the roofs, but I kind of forgot that there are eaves. And I not really forgot, but I wasn't aware that the metal roofs had eaves on them that I could use until after I already finished putting in the gutters. So I had to go back and like change the gutters and stuff up and like change the roofing. I just happened to be thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, you know what? Planet Coaster has the eaves and stuff for the roofs. I wonder if that has it. So yeah, I had to go back and do that. For our power supply that you just saw me place there, I put that behind the building, and I turned it so that the actual control panel is actually inside the building. So that way, if anything happens to like the electricity or something right here up at the beginning of the park, then our mechanic will be able to easily get to it inside the building without having to go up a path and go somewhere else. So at least just to get started here in the very entrance area of the building, all of the plaza stuff and our first habitat, at least it's going to have electricity and it's going to be easy to get to. I'll have to figure out unique ways to put in the electricity boxes and water pumps and stuff like that at a later date, but for now that works pretty good behind the building there. So we're just going to kind of dress the facilities building up here a little bit, not much, just a little bit. I don't like how that angled eaves right there in the front of it, like the roofing system there at the front of the entrance is kind of, you can see the beams and stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take some wooden beams and we're going to cover all of that up. It's I like doing this in Planet Coaster as well. I don't like leaving my edges of my roofs kind of just undone. So I'm going to cover these up here a little bit in kind of a fancy little way. You also saw me put down base plates and stuff there too for our pillars that are holding up the front of this roof too. So that window on the right hand side, or left depending on which way you're facing, is actually not going to be there anymore once you see the live portion of this, when I actually show off the habitat and stuff, because I ended up, like I remember I said I forgot the keeper's hut, so I ended up putting the keeper's hut on that side of the door and just had to change that out a little bit. So foliage makes all the difference, as you can see here. So we're going to take and put some trees, and I didn't want to put flowers out in front of here because my thinking is that they're not going to waste the money on the facilities building to dress it up with some like really nice flowers, because that's going to be more expensive and harder to take care of. But there will probably be some like greenery foliage, maybe some weeds or something that are just kind of growing up at the edge of the building there, right around the base of it. So those kind of worked pretty good. And then we'll take a couple small trees and kind of put around there, and then we'll do some ground coverings, and that will probably do it. So that will be our facilities building. And yeah, once we do a little more roofing on this, a few more little details on that, it looks pretty nice, I think, for being basic. So, and again, there's nothing wrong with being basic right now at this moment. So if it was sandbox mode, I would go in a lot more detail, but it's not. So let's move on to the habitat. This habitat, Planet Zoo is the game that, I don't know, it gives me more trouble than Planet Coaster, because Planet Coaster, I'm a big amusement park fan. I love amusement parks, and I'm kind of got like all this amusement park knowledge and stuff in my head, and it's just like I kind of know how to design those, and it's easier for me to come up and be more creative in Planet Coaster than it is Planet Zoo. Planet Zoo, every single time I feel like I have a good idea and I go to do it, the game won't let me. It's like literally the mechanics just won't allow me to do the things that I want to do. First of all, it was the lack of recolorable options and stuff, and the lack of pieces that caused me not to enjoy this game. Now it's just like, okay, I want to do this. Oh, what do you mean I can't do that? So for this exhibit, for example, I wanted this to be a walkthrough exhibit or a walkthrough habitat, and I found out that you can't actually just have the path just kind of go through. So I'll go ahead and tell you what the habitat is going to be for. This is going to be, I decided to use peacocks at the beginning of this. So right up here at the front. I usually go with flamingos right around the front, but I wanted to be different this time. And I thought, well, you know, I've never used the peacocks. I've never actually really even looked at the peacocks before. So let's take a look at those guys. And also it gave me the option to use the walkthrough habitat as well, which I thought would be really neat. And I started to work on it, and then as I was testing these outside of the franchise park, I realized that the only way to have a walkthrough exhibit is you have to have the gates, the guest gates, which is stupid. They're ugly. There's only like 2. There's metal or wood. That's the only 2 you have a choice from. And I don't feel that they're functional, because you also can only have them in just one size as well, which doesn't really work. I would much rather have it where maybe the peacocks are just roaming around freely inside your zoo. Like maybe you could just set like boundaries or something, and then the guests just kind of walk around there. Or I would like to maybe have like invisible gates of some sort, or maybe just like how in Planet Coaster, how you have the barriers that you can put down to keep guests from walking places. Maybe if we just had those that we could just hide under the ground, and they'd be like, hey, animal, you can't go past this point. So it was really tearing me apart on how I was going to do this. So what I originally was going to do here was just kind of place this path that kind of split off of the main path down here, and then have all of the peacocks would be on the other side of this little like creek bed that you're seeing me build here. However, with a little bit of ingenuity and persistence, I found a way to make a peacock habitat walkthrough without using the guest gates, which I will show you here at the end of this time lapse, and I'll kind of talk about it a little bit. I will tell you, it is not easy to do, and when I tested it out, it worked pretty good testing it out in my test zoo. When it came to doing this one, I had a whole lot of trouble with one side, and one side wasn't working, but I'll get to that in a moment. So the other thing I wanted to do here was I kind of wanted to do like a greenhouse over here on the left hand side of this. Like you would walk down through there, then maybe be like an indoor kind of greenhouse, aviary kind of building. But again, it's a case of not having the pieces to do it with, because they're still locked, as this is franchise mode, and I haven't done any research yet. So instead, I'm going to settle with just doing this little walkthrough exhibit. And I gotta be honest with you guys. I mean, it took me, I was so angry and so upset, because my first idea I wanted to do didn't work either. And then when I come up with another idea, and then for that idea not to work either, it was just like, I just give up. I don't even want to play this game anymore, because I was so mad. And that's why this video wasn't up on Sunday like I intended it to be, is because I could not get this video up, because I have been up probably 24 hours now working on this, and it has been such a pain. But all of it's going to be worth it, I think, in the end, because me figuring this trick out, I don't know of anybody else that knows this trick or not. So this is brand new. And again, it is very finicky, and it may not actually work for you. But I was able to get it to work, and I'm pretty happy with it. So I know I'm ranting on about this. Is it a rant? No, I guess it's a sort of rant. I'm talking about something I'm not actually showing you yet, so we'll get to this. We'll get to that. But I was very happy that I got it done. But again, I wanted to kind of put this kind of aviary, tropical greenhouse kind of thing over on there, and not having a piece of that. So I thought we'll just do this in 2 phases. The first phase will just be this walk-through habitat over here, or like I said, it was going to be a walk-along habitat until I figured out this trick. And then it turned into, I wanted to have it kind of walk along this path, and then the greenhouse, you would walk into the greenhouse and then walk through a path that would go into this area. That way I could use the guest gates inside of the greenhouse so that they could walk into the habitat, walk around the habitat, walk back through the greenhouse and exit. So that was going to be my original plan. So I still want to use the greenhouse, but it's just not going to be exactly that same method now. Another thing I've noticed is after I got done building all of this, like, I probably should have checked the trees and stuff that the peacocks like and things a little better. I was going off of memory from where I tested it before, and unfortunately my memory was wrong. Like, you'll see me place these Scots pines and stuff down, and I gotta say that the one Scots pine that I just placed over there in the corner, where I put like triple of them to make them kind of more bushy, that looked so beautiful right there in that spot, and I ended up having to take it out because peacocks don't like Scots pines. So go figure. And then apparently I ended up putting too much coverage in here as well, which is another thing that I think this game sucks. I ran into this when I was doing my flamingo habitat for my other zoo, is that the flamingos literally, and certain animals, they hate too much coverage, which is just stupid. I understand having the coverage feature in the game where you can kind of figure out where, you know, how much coverage the animals prefer. I get that, like, especially where it's like, oh, well, this animal wants more coverage. Wanting more coverage is one thing. Wanting less coverage is completely a different option. Like, I don't completely understand, like, why it's like such a hard limit on how many, like, bushes or trees or stuff you can put in a habitat. Because it makes it really, really hard to pretty the areas up. Yeah, pretty them up. That I use that phrase. To beautify the areas. Because, like, the flamingos, for example, they don't like a lot of foliage at all. Like, at all. And yet, and even some of the things they don't like they don't like palm trees and stuff. Like, I constantly see flamingos in, like, when I think of Florida, I think of palm trees and flamingos. But yet, flamingos don't like palm trees, which is stupid. So, I don't understand Frontier's kind of thinking on the hard limit for too much foliage. I feel like it should be, like, I get too much, like way too much, but I think they're being just a bit too anal about the amount of foliage that the animals don't like. Like, I felt like this for peacocks was pretty good. I mean, it's a little shady, but I mean, there's not a whole lot of trees and stuff, really. Most of them are kind of around the edge and stuff, and the trees act as kind of a shelter for them as well, because I don't actually build a shelter for them. I will do that in phase 2 of this exhibit, but yeah. Anywho, I'm getting off on a rant here because I think the entire thing here just, I don't know. The animals they don't like too much coverage is just kind of dumb, and I feel like that should be upped. I feel like this needs to be looked at again by Frontier, and maybe kind of fix that, because I don't want to turn off. Like, I know you can go into some of the settings and stuff in the game and turn off certain things like aging and all that, but again, this is franchise mode, so I'm trying to run this just like I would an actual real zoo. And I don't really want to turn off some of the features. Like, I don't know, maybe one of the new options that they added into it is the ability to turn off the habitat and the scenery and stuff like that, so that they don't care about that anymore. That might be one of the options in the settings, but I don't want to turn it off. I just think it would be better if it just didn't have that. All right, but anyway, I digress. So here, let me tell you what I'm doing here. So I figured out that you could take certain objects and place them right on the edge. Like, I'm taking this mulch, and you see me putting it kind of an angle there, so it's just kind of like up just a little bit. This actually worked to make a habitat boundary. The peacocks didn't mind that. They actually literally were like, okay, I can't go past this. So, or at least it worked in my testing phase. It didn't work in this on one side, and I'll get that in a minute. And I'll probably talk about this a little more here once we get into the showcase video, which let's go ahead and go into a live view, and let me show you off the exhibit and talk a little bit more about some of the issues and stuff that I ran into this. Alrighty guys, here we are inside the zoo. Apparently it's kind of opening day. In a way, we're going to call this opening day. I see some of the guests kind of getting stuck on some of the paths I have laid out underneath there. Alright, anyway, let's go ahead and go on into Riverside Zoo. So as you can see, our plaza is looking really, really good so far. I do have plans for some things kind of right there as soon as you walk in, up at the top up there, where these kind of steps lead to. But that is for another day and not for today. I also am going to put gift shops and things in here as well. We're going to decorate all of this, but again, that's going to require some money. This is going to be guest services over here. This is going to be the gift shop. Laid out very much like it is called Riverbanks Zoo in South Carolina. So I noticed nobody took any guesses at what the entrance was modeled after in the first episode of this. Like, nobody had any thoughts whatsoever on that. So I'll just go ahead and tell you it's Riverbanks Zoo was the name of that. So yeah, this is looking really, really good. And we're going to head over here. So I still need to do a little bit more work over here. Probably do some gardening effects or maybe some fence work or something over there on that. But let's take a look at our peacocks, shall we? So, as I was saying there at the very end of the time lapse, I figured out a way so I can have a guest walkthrough habitat without using the guest gates. So this actually works quite good. Other than the fact that it's kind of raised up and they do kind of walk through it a little bit. It's kind of ugly, but it's not too bad. There are other ways of doing this as well. But yeah, this seems to work, and I don't even need the guest gates or anything. So I actually really liked how that came out. Well, it worked on this side. I don't know what happened to the other side, but I just could not get it to work on the other side. So we're going to take a look down through here, and I also haven't been able to put in, I was going to do some waterfalls on each side, just in very, very small waterfalls on each side of this. And I wasn't able to get that done because I ran out of money due to the fact that I spent so much time trying to get this work. Our first two peacocks that we had in the zoo died because my keeper didn't feed them. He would go to the keeper hut, which is over here. Let's go check that out real quick. So he would go to run into the keeper hut inside of the building here, right? And he would go in his corner and then turn around and then run back that way. And then he would run completely out of the zoo, all the way to where the entrance to the zoo is. But he would never actually go in the keeper hut. And I couldn't figure out why. I finally ended up kind of moving this around a little bit, some things in here. Like I moved this closer or further away from the wall edge right there. And I don't know, it just started working, but by that time it was too late, and my first two peacocks actually died. I also put a habitat gate in here as well, because that wasn't in the video, the time lapse where I put this in, because I kind of forgot about it. So I put this here. This is going to change once we get the phase 2 of the peacock habitat. That will change as well. I just need some pieces before we can do that. So they are being researched currently, which is kind of nice. Alright, where's our peacocks? I'm hoping to catch these guys kind of looking around. Oh, look at that one up there on the rocks. Oh, it would start raining. I'm trying to show this off. There's a lot of weather. I chose, like, I don't know, maybe the wrong habitat. It's always raining or snowing here. So, yeah, I chose the wrong area. They don't have... I'm going to do maybe some caves kind of right over in here. Just maybe where they can kind of use some shelter or something over in there. That, and then there's also going to be the building in the middle as well. Look at this guy walking across the log. Isn't he pretty? Show your feathers. Come on, show them. Alright, he doesn't want to show. And then we got this one up here. They're just kind of sitting around the rocks. I'm surprised he could probably just go ahead and fly out, but, you know, whatever. And then we have this guy who's just getting some shade from the rain right now. Good opportunity to kind of look at him a little closer. Look at the beauty on him. The animals in this game are very well done. They really, really are. They are definitely the charm of the game. I really love them. I think they're beautiful. And then over here we have our little water fountain that I did the rocks around. So, yeah, I think it came out really, really well. I really, really do. And then, of course, like I said, we're going to keep working on this a little bit. I did have to take out, you'll notice I did take out some of the trees and some of the foliage and stuff that I put in here. Those twin flowers that I put in, they don't like those. They didn't like some of the other flowers. They didn't like the Scots pine. And the Scots pine looked really good there, so I don't know. What I'm going to do is, once I get some more money, there will probably be some trees up behind the rocks there. So this will look a little more enclosed later on. Oh, I didn't know they could fly over that. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. I thought the log was the only way they could get across that, but they can fly over to it as well. Or I guess kind of jump and glide. Where's the other one? We're missing one. I see one. Oh, there he is. Or she. I don't know which one's the female and which one's the male. I can look it up, but I don't want to right now. So yeah, they're getting some shade underneath the trees for now. Probably got to put some. They need enrichment items, and I need to take care of the enrichment items for them and stuff. But I'm slowly unlocking that stuff. We are researching things right now for that. But let's talk about this other side up here. So the first side over there, I was able to get done with the dirt and the mulch. This side, I could not get it to work, no matter how hard I tried. I probably spent like an hour and a half working on it this morning, trying to get the things to work, and it just wouldn't. So, but this works for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah. So I'm just gonna have to go with this. No matter what I did, if I tried to add the mulch behind it, it also lets them escape. So it's very, very finicky, extremely finicky. But it is possible to make a walk-through habitat without cascades, and I think that's pretty sweet. So I'm glad I was able to figure that out. They try to go up here and escape. It's kind of like they realize that they're like raptors. They realize that that's the weak point, so they run up to there. And yet they never actually go out of it though. So that's kind of a good thing. Looks like they got fed just recently. He's just gonna walk through it. The plumes on these guys. I really wish I could catch them doing their thing with their feathers. Oh, the inspector's here. Alright. So, yeah, there we have it. That is our walkthrough habitat for our peacocks. This is the first habitat in our franchise zoo. It's going well. We are making some money off of it. I did have to take a $20,000 loan, though, to work on this and actually finish it up because, yeah, the problems I had with just the peacocks in general and then them not getting fed was the other issue. And then another big issue I had was the guests would only walk to maybe like here, and then they would turn around and walk back out. They would never actually go visit the peacocks, and I couldn't figure out why. So I tried a few different things. I redid all the paths. That didn't work. I added in the information center in here. That kind of helped. A couple of the guests would start kind of walking in here buying stuff, and then they would walk back out. So that didn't really work. And I tried these information things right here. I tried putting one on each side and maybe try to gather them in there. Again, still didn't work. What actually did the trick, and it's the weirdest thing ever. So I only had 2 peacocks in the zoo to start. So what I ended up doing was I added 2 more peacocks, and that did the trick. That's when they finally started coming in, and all the guests started coming down to visit them. So they don't like having just 2 peacocks. They want at least 4. So, but with the 4 peacocks, they finally started actually working. Just running underneath people's legs. These things are like cats. They don't care. You're in their house. At least they're not as mean as a Canadian goose. You guys ever encountered a Canadian goose? Man, those guys, you don't want to piss them off. That's for sure. Alright, anywho, that's going to do it today. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me here in our Riverside Zoo. I know you guys are probably wondering, well, it's called Riverside Zoo, but where's the river? We'll get to it. I will get to that. For now, though, that's going to be it. I'm going to work on the bathroom area over here and then do some research and stuff and try to get our loans and stuff paid off. And that way we can work on phase 2, which will be the greenhouse and the home of our peacocks over here. So, alright. Thanks for watching, guys. I very much appreciate it. I will see you in the next episode. Wherever you are in the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.